Yes, the demigods. Jaya Radha Madhavam Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Chandra Baba Girivardhari Gopi Chandra Baba Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Vaja Janalan Yashoda Nandana Vaja Janalan Natira Brahmachari Natira Brahmachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Chandra Ballabha Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Praja Janarandana Natira Brahmachari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Guru Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading from Srimad-bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 1, a few verses today, 11, which has a very short purport, 12 has no purport, and 13 that has a bigger purport. Okay, so we'll chant the Sanskrit for 11. Dehang manu shamashritya Khati Varshani Vrishnibi Yadu Purya Sahavatsit Hatnya Katya Bhavam Prabhu Deham Manushamashritya Kati Varshani Vishnivi Yadu Puryan Sahavatsit Patnya Katya Bhavam Prabhu Deham Manushamashritya Kati Varshani Vishnivi Yadu Puryam Sahavatsit Patnya Katya Bhavam Prabhu Ehang Manushamashritya Kati Varshani Vishnivi Yadu Puryam Sahavatsit Patnya Katya Bhavam Prabhu Eham Manushamashritya Varshani Vishnivi Patnya Katya Bhavam Prabhu Eham Manushamashritya Kati Varshani Vishnivi Yadu Puryam Sahavatsit Patnya Katya Bhavam Prabhu Eham Manushamashritya Kati Varshani Vishnivi Yadu Puryam Sahavatsit Patnya Katya Bhavam Prabhu Deham body Manusham exactly like a man Asritya accepting Kati Varshani how many years? Vrishnivi in the company of the Vrishnis who were born in the Vrishni family. Yadu Puryam and Dwarka in the residential quarters of the Yadus. Saha with Avisit, the Lord lived. Pratyaha, wives. Kati, how many? Bhavam were there. Prabhu of the Lord. Translation. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, has no material body, yet he appears as a human being. For how many years did he live with the descendants of Vrishni? How many wives did he marry? And for how many years did he live in Dwarka? Repeat after me. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, has no material body, yet he appears as a human being. For how many years did he live with the descendants of Vishnu? How many wives did he marry? And for how many years did he live in Dwarka? In many places, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is described as Satchidananda Vigraha, possessing a spiritual, blissful body. His bodily feature is Nara Kriti, that is exactly like that of a human being. Here the same idea is repeated in the words Manusham Ashritya, which indicate that he accepts a body exactly like that of a man. Everywhere it is confirmed that Krishna is never nirakara or formless. He has his form exactly like that of a human being. There is no doubt about this. And well, I'll speak on this, but I'll speak also on the next verse, 2 verses. O great sage, who know everything about Krishna, please describe in detail all the activities of which I have inquired, and also those which I have not. For I have full faith, and I am very eager to hear of them. Because of my vow on the verge of death, I have given up even drinking water. Yet because I am drinking the nectar of topics about Krishna, which is flowing from the lotus mouth of your lordship, my hunger and thirst, which are extremely difficult to bear, cannot hinder me. Of course, this is Maharaj Parikshit, and he's speaking to Srila Goswami. Purport, Srila Prabhupada. To prepare to meet death in 7 days, Maharaj Parikshit gave up all food and drink. As a human being, he was certainly both hungry and thirsty, and therefore Srila Goswami might have wanted to stop narrating the transcendental topics of Krishna. But despite his fast, Maharaj Parikshit was not at all fatigued. The hunger and thirst from my fast do not disturb me, he said. Once when I felt very thirsty, I went to the ashram of Shamika Muni to drink water, and the Muni did not supply it. I therefore wrapped a dead snake over his shoulder, and that is why I was cursed by the Brahmana boy. Now, however, I am quite fit. I am not at all disturbed by my hunger and thirst. This indicates that although on the material platform there are disturbances from hunger and thirst, on the spiritual platform there is no such thing as fatigue. The entire world is suffering because of spiritual thirst. Every living being is Brahman, or spirit soul, and needs spiritual food to satisfy his tongue and thirst. Unfortunately, however, the world is completely unaware of the nectar of Krishna Katha. The Krishna consciousness movement is therefore a boon to philosophers, religionists, and people in general. There is certainly a charming attraction in Krishna and Krishna Katha. Therefore, the Absolute Truth is called Krishna, the most attractive. The word Amrita is also an important reference to the moon, and the word Ambuja means lotus. The pleasing moonshine and pleasing fragrance of the lotus combine to bring pleasure to everyone hearing Krishna Katha from the mouth of Srikadeva Goswami. The pleasing moonshine and pleasing fragrance of the lotus combine to bring the pleasure to everyone's hearing Krishna Katha from the mouth of Srikadeva Goswami. As it is said, Atirna Krishna Bhagata Svatova Ito Vipamnita Griha Pratanam Adanta Govir Vishatam Tamisram Punapunas Charvita Charvananam. Because of their uncontrolled senses, people too addicted to materialistic life make progress towards hellish conditions and repeatedly chew that which has already been chewed. Their inclinations towards Krishna are never aroused, either by the instructions of others, by their own efforts, or by or a combination of both. From the Srimad-bhagavatam 7th Canto, 5th chapter, 30th verse. At the present moment, all human society is engaged in the business of chewing the chewed. Puna punyas charvita charvananam. People are prepared to undergo mrityu samsara vartmani, taking birth in one form, dying, accepting another form, and dying again. To stop this repetition of birth and death, Krishna Katha or Krishna consciousness is absolutely necessary. But unless one hears Krishna Katha from a realized soul like Srikadeva Goswami, one cannot relish the nectar of Krishna Katha, which puts an end to all material fatigue and enjoy the blissful life of transcendental existence. In relation to Krishna consciousness movement, we actually see that those who have tasted the nectar of Krishna Katha lose all material desire, whereas those who cannot understand Krishna or Krishna Katha regard the Krishna consciousness life as brainwashing and mind control. While the devotees enjoy spiritual bliss, the non-devotees are surprised that the devotees have forgotten material anchorings. So there is this purport in the verse 11. There's many important things. So one thing is that from verse 11, so Krishna, he appears resembling a human being. Of course, he's a superhuman being. He's super, but he's actually, just like in the Bible, I think it says, somewhere it says the man is made in the image of God, right? So of course, God in his original form is is like that. Human-like body, 2 arms, in his original form, 2 arms, 2 legs, head, engages in many wonderful activities. So the man in human society, man, woman, are made in that image. We do not create. Some people may think, oh well, we're just imagining God. Okay, we're like this, so therefore God must be something, similar to us. We create some idea, but actually God, He's the source, and we are made. We in human form of life are made in His image, and that's very important because the human beings, only human beings, have the possibility of some intelligence to even inquire about or to understand spiritual life, right? And so, if it might be very difficult, which Krishna appears in other incarnations, other forms too, but in Krishna's original form, it's not hard for a human being who's aspiring for spiritual life to relate to God in a personal form. If we saw God as just like the Lord can also appear like hologram shilas. So they're stones. They're stones, but they're not really stones. They're the Lord appears in that form. So it makes it be very difficult for people in general to relate and develop a loving relationship, really, with a stone, as far as what we can physically see. But here we see that Krishna, he has so many. He's human-like. He has his loving relationships in a very, very nice way, a very full way. He has his loving relationships with his devotees. And Krishna has many different personalities too. Nectar Devotion describes like that. The Nectar Devotion describes like that Krishna's personalities. I don't remember the exact definitions of each one, but there were 4 general personalities. Dhiro Datta, Datta is spelled a little bit differently, and there's 2 others. I don't recall right off, but each one has very specific characteristics, and all the characteristics are very different. So you might think that an ordinary person, ordinary human being, they have their personality, but they don't tend to have a completely different personality. But for Krishna, he has so many personalities, and he deals with his different devotees in so many different ways, so that everyone is satisfied. So this is Krishna, and then so that's a little bit of mention of that, starting from verse 11. In verse 13, so here is Maharaj Parikshit speaking to Sukadeva Goswami, and he's saying that he made a vow. Maharaj Parikshit made a vow. It wasn't just a whimsical thing. He knew he had 7 days to live, and he knew what the purpose of life was, even though he did inquire here and there, what is the purpose of life? But he knew very well what the purpose of life was. He was living it his whole life. So he made this vow that he would give up everything, including all eating, and all eating, all sleeping, and all drinking, which we cannot. We can't even make it through the Srimad-bhagavatam Class of staying away. But Maharaj Parikshit, he was he was sitting there, and Shukadeva Goswami, of course, also was not eating or sleeping. There's conversations going on, apparently 24 hours a day. The discussion of the Srimad-bhagavatam. And so Maharaj Parikshit, he's made this vow that I will, for the next 7 days, I'm giving up all material engagement, and my material engagement includes, that I'm giving up, it includes, I'm not going to eat anything, I'm not even going to drink water. We can hardly go a day. It's very difficult to go 1 day without drinking water. He went 7 days. And it says that he obviously must have been hungry and thirsty, but he was not, but because he was so completely absorbed in hearing and asking questions about and hearing about Lord Krishna, he actually was not disturbed by it. And we cannot really, it's very difficult to, in our conditioned state, it's very difficult to relate to this exactly. You can only, theorize it, or not theorize it, and we say theoretically, we can imagine how it is to be transcendental to the tendencies or eating and sleeping and other bodily discomforts that we may experience. But Srila Prabhupada says that for the pure devotees, the pure devotees meaning those who have pure love for Krishna, that's the level that they're on. We read about the Goswamis, 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. The 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, they hardly slept, maybe 2 hours in a night, maybe. And sometimes they even forget that, because they get absorbed in some Krishna Katha, when it's time for the 2-hour nap, and they just forget about it, and they just go on. And they're not just sitting there doing nothing, they're having Krishna discussions back and forth. There's chanting so much japa. Sometimes they were bowing down and offering respectful obeisances, going out Govardhan Hill, or anything. They were completely engaged 24 hours a day. But they were transcendental to it. And Srila Prabhupada also, of course, was on that level. He was on that level because we saw to some degree during, Srila Prabhupada was constantly traveling and preaching. But we especially saw that at the end of his physical life. But even during his normal scheduled, normal regular program, his preaching program, Srila Prabhupada, he hardly ate, he hardly slept. He would, one time, his schedule changed maybe a little bit here and there. Srila Prabhupada's schedule was something like, whenever he traveled, wherever he went, and when he arrived at the temple, no matter what time he got there, he would always be up by, he would rest by 11 o'clock. Srila Prabhupada would rest by 11 o'clock at night. He'd get up like 1 o'clock in the morning. 2 hours. And he would sit there for 6 hours and write books. That's why we have Srimad-bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, because he would sit while everyone else was in bed sleeping. Srila Prabhupada took that time because it was the only time that it was quiet. He took that time and he sat down and he was writing his books for 6 hours every morning. He'd stay awake and study for a few minutes. It becomes difficult. Srila Prabhupada was doing this very intense intellectual work and present these books. So he would spend all morning while everyone else is sleeping writing books. And Srila Prabhupada didn't necessarily always go to Mongol Arti, but he was always awake for Mongol Arti because he was writing his books. And then he would maybe 7 o'clock or so he would go out on his morning walks. Srila Prabhupada's morning walks were not just morning walks; they're not just for walking exercise, although some doctor had suggested that he would do that. So, but when he started it, everyone went along with him. So of course, Srila Prabhupada was walking, chanting, and preaching. And then Srila Prabhupada would come back. Usually, most of the time, he would give Srimad-bhagavatam Class in the morning. And at his time, he was meeting with his the temple leaders, temple presidents, and GBCs, and like that. He spent his time. At a certain period of time, he was preaching to visitors. The visitors would be brought to see him. And a certain time that he was writing his letters, Srila Prabhupada was writing, and at least I know in the later years, and maybe it was the same thing earlier, but I know for sure in the later years, Srila Prabhupada, when he wrote, he was answering maybe 25 letters a day. We tried to do a little email, a few lines, and it's hard to keep up with. But Srila Prabhupada was actually writing many letters. Some of them were very detailed and long letters. Some were short, of course. But he would respond to write to whoever wrote to him. Srila Prabhupada would personally answer those letters. He may dictate, and someone else would type the letters, mail them out, but Srila Prabhupada would personally answer the letters that were written to him, like that. And anyway, it was like that. And then towards the end of Srila Prabhupada's physical life, maybe the last 6 months or so, of course, Srila Prabhupada showed we may say his pastime of becoming very sick and becoming closer and closer to giving up his material body, or spiritual body, we should say, because it's completely used in Krishna service. But he was in that condition when an ordinary person, actually it was described by some doctor at that time to devotees, that the condition that Srila Prabhupada was in those last months, the physical condition he was in, when he was like literally skin and bones, which means there's no muscle, no fat, nothing there. Your skin's like rubbing on your bones. Nerves are, of course, they're there. So it's extremely painful for an ordinary person. But Srila Prabhupada never showed any sign of pain. He never showed any sign like that. He would simply, his body was getting very skinny, but still he went on preaching. Even when he couldn't sit up, he went on preaching. Even when his and his main, he always said his main work, his main service was writing these books. So he never gave that up either. In the beginning, he was writing 6 books, like 6 hours a day, and then when it became more and more difficult, he reduced gradually to 5 hours, and then 4 hours, and a couple hours, and at one point he wasn't even able to sit up or press, had no energy to press the button on the dictaphone. So then he was lying down, and at that point somebody else was holding the microphone, and he was still writing his books by dictating, even though he couldn't pick up the microphone himself. And Srila Prabhupada, of course, was never, we see in modern times, many people, when they get old, when we get old, some of us, we get, in our aging body, so many times we lose our memory, dementia, related things. But Srila Prabhupada, and no time did he show any signs like that. He was transcendental to his body, like that. So this is characteristic of the completely pure devotees of the Lord, who can become transcendental to these material bodies. They take care of the body the best they can, but they're not bothered by it. And then in Nectar Devotion, Lord Shubo in chapter 34, not chapter 34, it's actually chapter 19. I'm trying to find it right now. There's a quote from Lord Shiva, speaking to Parvati, and he is saying how the pure devotees of the Lord, pure devotees meaning those who actually are on the level of love of Krishna, they cannot even perceive the material, the stress or the happiness, material distress or material happiness. They cannot even perceive it as far as their own within them. They don't see anything. So we saw that, just like I was describing from Srila Prabhupada. His body was in a very horrible condition, but he was not perceiving it as some great difficulty. He wasn't. We cannot, we step on a thumbtack or catch a bad cold, and you think, oh, this is horrible, this is miserable, why do I have to go through this? But Srila Prabhupada was so transcendental to all these things. But of course, that was also for our benefit, because so that we could also we could also aspire that as our body also ages, and we can also go through problems, physical problems, and we can also aspire at least to become transcendental to this material body. But you become transcendental to the material body by engaging the body 100% in Krishna service. That's the method. 100% in Krishna service. For the pure devotee, he's thinking, if he's feeling some difficulty, he's seeing Krishna is putting me through this for some reason. For some reason, I'm experiencing some difficulty. So I'm not worried about it, because this is what Krishna wants. And if there's some material, some pure devotee has experiences what we might consider material happiness, he's also not attached to that. And if he experiences some material distress, he's also not attached to that. But of course, this is all for us to see. We see this in the pure devotees. We see it specifically in Srila Prabhupada, because it's great acharya that we have experience with, so we can see a little bit of how such a devotee lives and how such a devotee thinks. You can become and actually this is very important. If we can try to become transcendental in that way, it's very important, because if we can, then at the time of death, then there's no fear, there's no problem. In fact, real fear, or real fearlessness comes when we become totally, spontaneous in our service. meaning you don't become afraid of death anymore when your whole absorption, without any endeavor, your whole absorption in life is just Krishna's devotional service. So we have the opportunity for this kind of making this kind of progress, and we have some we have this opportunity to make this kind of progress, so that when our time, each of us we will have our time in this body. We give up this material body. So many devotees have given up the material bodies over the last many years. So when that time comes, if we can become transcendental to this body, then even the time of death we don't have to be concerned. It's just a change of body. Like our body is changing. Our body is changing day by day, constantly. So we see the change from the time we're little kids to the time we're old. We're watching the body change. But for the pure devotees, their absorption is simply in the pastimes, the name, fame, form, pastimes of the Lord, and they may see the body changing, but the real interest is their eternal relationship with Krishna, and that is not lost. Anyway, there's a couple points here. Any questions, comments? Anyone? Yes.
We were just reading yesterday the 11th Canto, and I think it was 11:1, first chapter, second text. And I was saying that Prabhupada wrote the books so we could be absorbed in his pastimes. And it is the same reading those pastimes is equal to being in those pastimes.
Yes.
It's literally the same thing. So when Krishna was on the planet, people were experiencing those pastimes. It's spiritually and it's the same. When you read it, absorbing that.
Yes.
It's the same thing. You're not like, wow, it's so cool. Since we have those books, we can be in Krishna's pastime. We are.
Yes.
We become absorbed really carefully absorbed.
Yes, it's a fact. We read these books about Krishna's pastimes, and if we read them in faith, and we continue to read them, and then we'll more and more and more we'll realize that actually I am part of this. In fact, and Srila made it clear, we all have our eternal relationship with the Lord, and Krishna, and especially, Lord Vishnu, Lord Narayan doesn't. Well, he has his pastimes too, I guess, but it's not like Krishna in his original form. So what Srila Prabhupada gave us, what Lord Chaitanya gave us, and Lord Chaitanya gave us specifically this opportunity to develop our spiritual relationship with Krishna in his original form. We worship Krishna with awe and reverence and like that, but Srila Prabhupada gave us the Krishna's wonderful pastimes right up front. I mean, I joined the movement in 1971, but at that time the Krishna book was already there. Srila Prabhupada was only just starting to translate the second canto, Srimad-bhagavatam, maybe 1 or 2 chapters at that point. But he had already given us the whole 10th canto of Srimad-bhagavatam as the Krishna book. There was a 2-volume set at that time. So Prabhupada gave us all that early on, even though that's the highest. He wanted to make sure that we had that from the beginning, so that maybe we could start developing some taste for. I would like to be part of those pastimes. I can be part of those pastimes. So these are not just stories; they're actually something that we can be part of, like that. So Srila Prabhupada gave us all that in the early days. In fact, it was the program in the early days that you had your morning program, evening program, Bhagavad Gita class, and so on. And then, just before sleeping, you drink hot milk and you listen to the Krishna book. It was done every day. We read one chapter out of Krishna book every night as we were drinking some milk. And you would sometimes, Shubha said, if you regularly hearing Krishna book, especially before you go to sleep, that you'll sometimes dream of Krishna. I had experience a number of times where I read Krishna book every night. So it wasn't because of any high degree of purity or anything, but it was there. You're thinking at the time that you're going to sleep. You're thinking about what you're last seeing or hearing. You know. So if your mind is absorbed at the time of the end of the day when you're going to sleep, your mind is absorbed in Krishna's pastimes, then naturally you're going to sometimes think like that, right? More and more. And of course, if you're feeling like that, then when it's time to wake up in the morning, you're like, this is it. Let me get up, go see Krishna, chant my japa and everything. Srila, I remember one time one of Srila Prabhupada's servants who was traveling with him had written, he made some notes about Srila Prabhupada was with him, and he said that Srila Prabhupada at the end of the day he was going to rest, and Srila Prabhupada said to him, so we're sitting on his bed, getting ready to sleep, and he says, Srila says to him, I hate doing this. I hate doing this, sleeping. I hate doing this. And they lay down and immediately he falls asleep. The Srila Prabhupada's sleep was not like our sleep. Srila Prabhupada's sleep, it means he's constantly thinking all night. He's resting his body, but he's constantly engaged in what he's doing. He's absorbed in Krishna's pastimes. He's actually engaged in Krishna's pastimes with him, or whatever. Or he's thinking about this next day of preaching word. But Srila Prabhupada never had, it's not like, we probably, we wake up in the morning and it's tired and everything. Try to shake it off, trying to get out and jump up and down. People outside, they're waking up and they're drinking coffee and stuff, but we don't drink coffee. But you wake up in the morning and it's a struggle. But Srila Prabhupada would wake up and he's already, he's wide awake and he's telling, if anyone's there, he's telling them, you do this, what about that? He's completely absorbed and completely, he's completely aware of everything. It's just like he never was sleeping. Because we fall asleep. The tendency is go down the road of ignorance and trying to come out, try to get going, get up there, get the Mongol Arctic on time. But Srila Prabhupada he wasn't like that. When he would wake up from his rest, it's just like he never fallen asleep, as far as And Srila Prabhupada also didn't, and I remember when Srila Prabhupada was he was visiting in New Vrindavan one time. This is around 1972, I think. That was just not too long after I joined the movement, but we got a chance to go there, And it was on for Janmashtami and Srila Prabhupada's Puja. So on Janmashtami night, Srila Prabhupada had, the temple room there was packed. The Bahulan farm temple was there. And so the temple room was packed. Most of us, including me, couldn't fit inside, going through the windows and trying to hear over something. But Srila Prabhupada was having the devotees read Krishna book. and they kept reading and reading and reading. It was all the way to midnight or close to midnight. And then the Srila Prabhupada saw that everyone's like falling asleep. So he...
One more chapter.
Yeah, one more. So time. So at one point, Srila Prabhupada said, "Okay, just let's stop here." The Srila Prabhupada was not falling asleep. He was completely absorbed in it. He really, he was completely absorbed. This is Krishna's pastimes, but it's all his disciples were basically falling asleep. So okay, it's like that. So this is the way of the pure devotees, like Srila Prabhupada, pure devotees who actually have love of Krishna. We can follow the pure devotional path for those who have perfected that pure devotional path, like Srila Prabhupada is holding her life. Okay, so we'll end here for right now. Tomorrow, I guess, somebody else is giving the class, I guess. Right? Srila Prabhupada ki jai.